Trevor right now is actually getting almost through his PhD at University of Pretoria, just studying the lives of reconciliation through all the stories that he's heard over the last few years. And so they both come to us with this deep experience of what God has done in them and through them, and what God is doing in a nation right now. And as you receive it in that way, you're receiving these deep treasures of two men that have come through an experience, a journey together, and they're sharing out of real life experiences and journeys. And that's really, really key for us today, because this is coming deep from the heart. So once again, open your heart and let's see what God's going to do today. Amen. Thank you.
Good morning. I would like to have a mic stand. No, just a mic stand. No, that's no. Good morning. In my culture, when you use a mic, you need to have a mic stand. Black people, they like to talk about culture. So when white people give me a hard time, I say, in my culture, it's a Xhosa. Women they must just keep quiet. It's nice to be here. What's happening? Oh, okay. It's nice to be here. Really, it feels like I'm part of the furniture, part of the family here. I arrived on Wednesday, and then Bruce and his wife, they've been very nice to me, and they took me to a group of people who eat a lot of food. They can't stop talking. They call themselves the eldership, And I had a good time, They just drank a lot of wine, and then by the time we left the meeting, they're all drunk. And I said, "What's wrong with these people?" And I must just say, and then also meeting some of the young people here, it's been nice, and I'm looking forward to spend the day. It's not about me, it's not about Vlok, it's about what God has been doing. All I'm doing here is to tell you what God has done in the last few years. The older I get, I wish that when you hear Trevor's story, it will be 60, 70, 80, 90% God's story in my life. I have a friend there, Steve Ovo. Do you mind to stand up? You thought he's a black guy. No, actually, Steve is not white, he's black. Steve and I, we from Joburg. I stayed at his house when I was going through a difficult time, and then we've been friends, and now we moved to another country called Cape Town, so I invited him to be here. So in my culture, I say, "Hoi hoi." Yeah. Hoi hoi. So I just thought maybe I just tell a little bit about myself, but the most important thing is about the Lord Jesus Christ. I love the Lord let me not say with all my heart, because I've always thought it's all my heart, and later I discovered, no, there are things that I love more than my Lord. Do you know what I'm talking about? The older I get, I become reticent to claim those things. When I was young, I got born again at the age of 17 years. And then I would tell people I love the Lord with all my heart. And as I grew, and then I realized, you know what? It's not with all my heart. I still have some idols. I know in this church, you love the Lord with all your heart. Amen. But you know what I'm talking about. So I hope one day I would love the Lord with all my heart, because I'm convinced He is the solution. We used to say Jesus is an answer, but it became a cliche, and then it became meaningless. But in the true sense of the word, I believe Jesus Christ is an answer, is a solution of our country, of our lives, of our family, of this whole world. I am convinced. I don't have doubts. I have seen God healing people. When I was 17 years old, I'm already started, so don't expect that I'm going to pray and then say, now I've started already. So you can count time. And then, black people, they talk a lot, they have a lot of airtime. So especially if they are from the north, like Soweto, they just keep talking, especially if they're black women. They just go on and doing it on and on and on. I stay with my mom. My wife died 4 years ago. She rolled with she was driving with a friend. It was a Women's Day, and it was very horrible. And I got this phone call. If you remember, 4 years ago, it was 2015. The 9th of August was Sunday. It was Sunday. So my son and I, we ran to the church to prepare the Women's Day, because you're scared of women on that month, and we can't wait for the month to finish. It's a joke. And I know my mom is not here, and as I said, I stay with my mom. She's a nice lady. One day I'm looking forward to go with her around. But my mom, she's got this. Have you met mothers? Mothers, they still want to control. I'm 58, I'm 52 years old. They still want to control you even when you are 50. And this one is what is in my house. And I'm going like, mothers. And sometimes she drives me crazy, and I wanted to go like, when are you getting married so that you can leave my house? So she was asking me, how am I doing? And then I have 3 kids. I have a daughter who is 28 years old, and she thinks she knows. You remember Steve Ovutando? Yeah. She thinks she knows everything, And then, these young people, they think they know everything because they know technology. Technology is not the whole thing, And I have a little one, she's 23. She's also Tando. Don't ask me because it's a long story. And then I have a boy whose name is Buhlali. Buhlali means the wise one. So basically, that's my story. And I have 2 siblings. One is late, is Dimakato, it means wonders. And then I have an older one. Looks like I've forgotten a Mantua. Oh, she shouldn't hear that I've forgotten a name, Mantua. I'm a pastor. Pastor, very interesting people. You know that. I saw Bruce, pastors are very interesting people. But at the same time, apart that they are interesting, to be a pastor is a hard one. It's a hard life. There's a temptation to be a celebrity, and we know God has not called us to be celebrity. Like to be submarine and serve the people of God and love God with all your heart. And I salute pastors. And I know there are those pastors who are naughty, who do all kinds of, you see them on television, and they are not serving the Lord, they're pushing their ego. And then the most important thing is to serve Jesus Christ. And I didn't choose to be born in South Africa. I didn't choose to be black. I didn't choose to be a male. So you are. You never chose to be white. You never chose to be black. And that's the good news. And stop blaming your ancestors who brought apartheid and said, yeah, they did this, Vlok and others. I wouldn't be in this thing. No. God gave you the color of your skin. God gave you agenda to be here. And instead of planting you in China, He decided you're going to be here. So you're in the right place, you've got the right gender, you've got the right color of the skin. It's not wrong because God gave it to you. And that's the good news. You must walk tall with your white skin. Let me repeat that. You must walk tall with your white skin and your white body. And in abantu abamnyama, lona bathu abathu, and I'm speaking in tongues. God gave you that color, and you must use it for the kingdom of God. I was telling my friend that when I see 4 black men following me, I get worried. And I said, it is true. And they don't want to hear that. It is true. But Jesus Christ saved us so that we can use this black skin so that when I follow other black people, they shouldn't be worried. One day, this white woman, I was at what is this place? Woolworth. You know Woolworth? Yeah. So I was walking there, and then this white woman, she was like, and her purse fell. And I was walking behind her, and she was like, oh, what's going to happen? Thank God that Trevor, the Lord Jesus Christ has changed his life. So when I pick up her purse, I said, I'm not one of those. The Lord has changed my life. Here's your purse. So we don't need other black skin to go and terrify people out there. Jesus Christ planted you in this country to use your black skin to change this country. We hear a lot of people talking about Jesus Christ is their Lord and Lord and Lord and Lord. And then when you meet their lives, when you spend the time with them, you realize, oh my. This black guy who calls himself a Christian, really? And you meet white people who treat other people, black people, like rubbish. They are domestic worker as if it's rubbish. When I was pastoring a white church, I will tell you, I'll go to that later. So one of the members in the church, they said, Trevor, there was a Jewish guy, his name is Jimmy. Jimmy went like, Trevor, I would like you to come and visit our house. So, when you go into white people's house, especially when I was 17 years old, walk into the people's house and you realize it's got a lot of doors. Because I grew up in a 4-roomed house. So you walk into this room and then they open the door and you realize there's nothing except the bathroom. And he said, this is a bathroom. I said, whoa. So this room is occupied by the bathroom the whole day. The bath owns the room. And then you walk into another room, it's got a lot of dishes and a machine. And they say, it's scullery. And they say, whoa. And it was another called TV room. So for me, the white world was a very interesting world. So now I own those things. I have those rooms in my house. I have a scullery, I have all of this and all of this. So when I was pastoring this church in Randbeck, I'll tell you a little bit about that. I was invited to go and have a meal. One of the things that is very interesting about white people when you go into their house, I expected they'll give me juice and they give me water. I was like, I drink water at home, please. So they put water there. Now I drink water. Ask my host. I drink water, but at that time it's like, put wine, put brandy, put cognac. I don't know. What is cognac? Xhosas, they don't know what is cognac, and don't tell them about that. And then what happened is that we sat there, and there was this big Mupedi mother. She said, Ngwanak. She said, Ngwanak. They told me that you are coming. I didn't know that you are black. They told me about their pasta and all that. And I said, yes. And then she cooked there. I know I'm sharing this story in a humorous way. And when I was 19 years, I asked God to give me a sense of humor. And it's interesting that God answers the prayers. I only discovered, I think 6 months later, that I'm humorous, and I don't do anything. It just comes natural, and I know that it is God. And behind the humor, please don't run with the humor. Listen to the stories. In those stories, God. I'm telling the stories because God has done something in my life. So, this woman, Kimme, Umam, she must have been in her 60s. So she prepares the food. So then I asked her, I said, how are you? And we talk and we trying to get to know her because she says she's from Limpopo, and I tell her my background, and then not long the food is ready and we're about to eat. And then she goes like this. Here's your food. So I'm thinking she's going to join us. I ask her, are you not going to join us? She says, no, my son. And she's speaking Sepedi. She says to me, let me tell you, these people, you're talking about my host. The people, it's not my, it's my host, right? Yeah. Who have invited me. They are not the way you think they are. Remember making an example of people who call themselves Christians. And their lives, they don't match up to that. It's not only white people, it's not only black people, all of us. Paul in the book of Romans, he said, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And she says, these people, and she said with a broken heart, and she said, when they are with you, as we see now, they pretend as if everything is fine, you know. But she said it's insipid. And she said, I'm not going to join you. We don't eat together. I'm not implying that you must eat with your domestic, I'm just telling the story. And then because I was a pastor of this church, and when I heard that story, it broke my heart. And I started to visit because I was visiting the members of the church. Because the church was 96% white. And it's not often you hear of a black person in this country pastoring a white church. And I remember visiting other members of the church, and it would be opposite. Vlok's domestic worker who has been working for him for 52 years. It's another story. So, because I was doing my research, I went to her and I said, tell me, you work for Vlok and this and that and that and that. So I'm expecting like horrible stories, like where Vlok said, I don't know Afrikaans, you know, or something like. But I know there's those strong words in Afrikaans. You know. I studied Afrikaans at school, so I know the past tense. You have to say gester, and then like when you say past, you must put ge in the past, in the front. So I've forgotten some of the verb, you know. Gestaan, something like that, yeah. So then and then she goes like, no, I didn't experience apartheid. And I'm going like, no, don't come and tell me what. I mean, she's older than me by far. She goes like, meaning, listen here, my son. Don't come here with your stories. She's a strong black Zulu woman. Says, no, but come tell me the truth. You're working with Vlok for 52 years. Are you saying he never treated you like this and this? He says, listen here. My children, when they were young, this man had taken care of them. And she pulled a photo. You remember Vlok? Pulled a photo. And it goes like, do you remember this photo? You bought my father this car. I mean, this was in the 70s. And the more I spend time with her, I realized that there's been an authentic relationship between her and Vlok and his late wife. It was not fanagalo. You know those relationships that we play games, especially in the New South Africa, I use your skin and you use my skin, and then we presented this thing, and you can smell it that it's not authentic, it is stinking, it's fanagalo. You know what I'm talking about. To this day, Vlok and this woman, they are still friends for 52 years. Every month, he drives to the northwest to go and deliver food. And then you have to see when they laugh, when they talk, you know, that this is real. And this country, we need authentic relationships that will transcend all the issues of the land, all the issues of the monies, all these things, because they will dwarf these issues, because authentic relationships, what they do, they give meaning. They make people to be human. But without relationships, we just use each other because we're scared of each other. I became a Christian at the age of 17, 1984. And then a few months later, I was told that we need to go and preach somewhere. And it happened to be an old age home. I told the story to some people here. And we got there, and then I preached. These old people, in the place is called Katla Home in Gauteng. The next thing, when I finished, they said to me, we must pray for the sick. So I've always understood prayer to be, you talk with God. I still like that, but associating with praying for people. So I said, no, I just did my part. I was 17 years old. You guys, because we were a group of young people, you go and do what you say you should be done. Then they prayed. They went and then they prayed for people. Then the next thing is I'm sitting there, and the lady who was running the center, she came with this friend of mine. He said, Trevor, you're sitting here doing nothing. There's somebody that needs to be prayed for. Then we walked reluctantly, like went to where they had the room. When we got there, it was a Xhosa woman, 88 years old. She couldn't move. Her limbs were not moving at all. And the next thing, said, yeah, you should pray for her. And I was like, oh boy. So I told her, okay, thank you so much. You can leave. She must have been in her 50s, like 17 years, and she looked at me like, what do you mean? I said, yeah, you can leave, I'll pray. And she also reluctantly walked away. Then I left with this lady, old Choco. As I'm standing there, I didn't know what to do, but then I sort of heard somewhere, somebody said, when you pray for the sick, you lay your hands. So I just did that, and I closed my eyes, and I mumbled few sentences. To my surprise, my hand was pushed, and I opened my eyes. And then she said to me, Mtanami, bengayazi nokuthi. Meaning I couldn't even lift my hands. And then she stood up in front of me. You can imagine being 17 years old. You see that, what it will do to you. And then we walked. She said, give me my shoes. So I was like shaking, my prayer is not finished, but fine, leave it like that. Take the shoes, and we walked. Confused, excited, and we walked to the hall where these old people were. And then there was this loud silence because, understandably so, they were expecting her to die anytime. And there was this thing in me feeling like, next! Since that time, at the age of 17, and now I'm 52 years, I have seen God healing people, God delivering people. I've seen God delivering people from demons. My first time delivering a demon or delivering people, you know what I mean, delivering demons, yeah. Somebody said something there. It's a matter, you said. Okay, I didn't get it. So, it was also in Soweto. And I don't want to go to the details, but it was like, wow. And it just blew my mind. And when I saw God saying to me, which I'm going to repeat it later, but I want to say it now. When God pushed my heart and said, you are a racist. Do you know black people can't be racist? Do you know that? Black people can't be racist. I think it's rubbish. I think, and we'll explain that later when we talk. But 1988, I was 21 years old. I was part of this church in Johannesburg. It was interesting. Bruce told me, and Judy, that you met Alexander. Has he been here? Alexander Feta, and I met some of the people who knows. So Alexander is an Afrikaner. He came with his friend, a black guy. In 1984, they planted a church in Soweto. And there were these white people. I mean, you have to understand, 1988, in the 80s, white people in Soweto was like, in the church was like, what do you want here? You've got an agenda. Now you're using the platform of the church to get to us. So I was invited in this church, and I'm a pastor of the Vineyard Church. So, I mean, I believe you know the Vineyard Church. So I enjoyed the worship. And like, wow, we worship there. But at the back of my mind was like, but they're white. And then at some point, the sermon would be interrupted. It's like a postmodern church. I don't know what does a postmodern look like, but at that time I felt like, wow. And then someone sometimes would not have been finished. And I enjoyed it, but part of me was like, and the white people, when they come to church, they would just be casual, wearing like this, And we black people, when we go to church, we overdress, we put a tie, we put all of this. And we know we learn those things from you because you brought Christianity in this country. When you used to go to church, you used to wear a suit and a tie, and we followed you. And now you drop them, and then we go like, what's wrong with these people? So we used to go to church overdressed, in a tie and a suit and everything, and you make sure you get a big Bible. It's called King James Version or Virgin, something like that, to carry it. So I walked into this church, and I could see these white people, some of them, and there was a lady who was sitting like this with a not a miniskirt, no, they were, a short, yes. I almost, like it was a trouser that is short, but I realized it's how my mind works. So, a minute short, a minute, anyway, you get what I'm talking about. So I was like, what is this? Church? And Alexander is a pastor, he's just wearing like in a very relaxed way. And then became self-conscious. I became self-conscious. I'm wearing a suit, I'm wearing this and all that. Anyway, sat in the church, and I enjoyed the church. But the white people, unless Christianity deal with the issues that an average person in this country, they are wrestling with, we are not touching this country. So, and then he's preaching, somebody interrupts, and it goes on and on and on and on. And the following week, I come again. And now I'm like, my dress code is not getting now better now. And then after 3 weeks, there was a gentleman there, his name is John Gosling. Very English. I think Irish, Goslings. Then he stands up, he also said something about the country, about the Bible and all that. Oh boy, something in me wanted to rise up. And as I told you, black people cannot be racist. Then I find something in me like coming up, and I got so angry. There was this venom, there was this poison, there was this anger, this, hatred. And then to this day, I no longer remember what he said, but I know he invoked something in me. And I raised my hand for the first time. I've been coming to this church for, I think, a month. And they gave me a chance. And I turned and I said, I think you should go back to your country where you were born. I didn't know who's this guy. And that country is Europe. You don't belong here. I was a Christian. Christian can say stuff like that. You know that. Except you here. But there in Soweto, we do that. We give people grass. You have seen what the Christianity in Gauteng looks like. I don't know why you invite me, Bruce. We are finding Christians in Gauteng. The next thing, the sermon continued, and then somebody interrupted, and John stood up, and he says, "What's your name?" So I tell him, "My name is Trevor," and then he says, "Trevor, I was born in this country. I've never been to Europe. One day, I would like to visit Europe. So that's all I wanted to tell you, that this is my country, as is your country." That's all he said. That's all he said. God used that opportunity. God used that opportunity to show my heart that was racist. For the first time, it was like there was no people. I cried and I broke. You know, you can see I'm a tough black man. I don't cry. But that day, I cried. And I asked God to forgive me. And I saw my racist heart. It was not politically correction or whatever, or no one came to me and told me. I knew that I am a racist. And I prayed this prayer, which I don't recommend unless you really want God to change you. So it's T and C. Terms and conditions. This is a prayer that I prayed. Lord Jesus. And I was sobbing, I was crying. I had forgotten, like insulated, forgotten there were people around me. 1988, I said, Lord, I ask you that you change my heart. I don't want to be a member of a church that is only black. Because I knew and I know it will perpetuate what I've been doing in the past life. And I don't want to remember what then I said. Fast forward, years later, and I realized, sengihamba nabelungu. Abelungu sengisebenza nabo. Meaning, I'm now working with white people. They're becoming my friends. We go and do this thing. And then later I realized, wow, that prayer that I prayed, it's done things in my life. One of the things, they asked me to be a pastor of a 96% white in Randburg. That's when I realized, oh, God takes our prayers very serious. And you black people there never accept if they ask you to be a pastor of a black church, of a white church, sorry. And you white people, don't go and pastor a black church. Bazokusokolisa. I had a good time. They took care of me. But like any other church, Bruce can tell you, we have not spoken about it, but I know there are times where you Bruce, these people, they give you a hard time, right? He says no. He says no. So he's being intimidated. But I know when it's just two of us, you say, yes, Trevor, they do. Yeah. And it's not because they were white, it's not because they are black, it's because human beings, we are broken, we are messed up. And I remember sitting in the eldership meeting, and I had an issue with somebody who was like on my case all the time. And then I told the elders, and I said, I struggle with this guy who's treating me like I'm not a human being. And then her name is Debbie. She said to me, but Trevor, you must be Jesus. And it was the last thing I wanted to hear. And I exploded. I said, I don't want to be Jesus. And she said, wow, I thought we are here to be Jesus. And I was like, got embarrassed. But that journey in that church, for 3 years or for 4 years, I think Steve Ovett was 4 years or so, it changed my life. And I realized this country, we don't treat each other as human beings. We play games. You know, when I was in Soweto, the church that was part of in Soweto with Alexander, we have a phrase on an acronym. It says WWB. W means white, talking to whites, about blacks. And in BBW, which is black, talking to blacks, about whites. And I know you don't do it here. And as I was pastoring that church, I realized the issues in my heart. And I would never forget those moments. One day I was about to preach. And then when I finished preaching, this old white lady came in front. Do you know what is altar called? Where people are altered? Do you know that space? So they were coming in front. And then the next thing, she was on my left, and she looked at me and started to cry. And she sobbed. And she stopped. And she's about to start again. And then she cried again. Now, so I was getting confused. What is happening? Because I need to do the work. I need to finish my job. I want to go and pray for people, And then I think she gathered herself, and then she cried again. And then finally, she said to me, when you're about to come to preach, God told me that I must come to you and ask for forgiveness. And I asked her, why? And then she said, a few months ago, my daughter and I, am I doing well in terms of time? 10 minutes, okay. Oh, I'm happy. Black people, they don't keep time, you know that. And then Vlok, we always complain about that, And I have these excuses that black people have time, we don't have watches, so I decided to bring this one. That's why we are late. Have you seen, even Indians, they're also late. I see one here, this guy here, and colored folks. So I said, Bruce, when I'm left with 10 minutes, please indicate. And it's only you. And I know now I'm left with 9 minutes, 58 seconds. So, now I got, let's come back to that lady. And she said to me, she looked at me like I could see she struggled, and she said, a few months ago, I and my daughter and I, we were hijacked. So I know in this country, people who hijack are not white. Right? Yes. And you white people, do not ever go and study this thing. It doesn't belong to you. Leave this thing to black people, and God will deal with them. Because we don't want this sin to increase. We have our sins, you have your sins. Don't mix them. No, please. Imagine white people are hijacking, it won't work. We go like, Yeah. So please, don't. So when we know that hijacking is black people, and I was like, when she said I was hijacked, so I knew in my mind, and I know these things, we don't say them in the pulpit, because we're playing nicely, we're being sensitive, we don't want to racial profiling people. I think we must say them as they are, so that our country, we call a spade a spade. And then she said, since that time, I hated black men. And then she started to cry. And then my mind was going like, I wonder what happened. Was she raped? And da, 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 da. And then she cried again. And then she said, will you forgive me for hating you? Wow. I want you to put a pause there. Put a pause. A few years before, I met this white Afrikaner. She was big and short in Germiston. And we're talking about the issues in the country. And then she stood up. And she said, I just want to tell you, I love black people. And then I was about to say, listen, You shouldn't love black people. You should love human beings. Because it's so patronizing. Before I even said it, she was so big, and I was not tall like this. I was a beginning. And then she just came to me, and because she was big, and she just hugged me to demonstrate how she loved black people, like couldn't even finish the qua. And she hugged me. Couldn't finish. So, fast forward to that story of that lady, Karen. Her name is Karen. The one who said, I ask you to forgive me for hating you. He said, the Lord told me that I must come to you and ask for your forgiveness for hating you. And it dawned on me for the first time that God was using my gender, was using my color of my skin to bring healing to that woman. And as I was shocked, didn't know what to do. And then she repeated again, and she said, may I ask you to forgive me? And then I reached out. You remember that one? The other one? The lady? The other one? And then I hugged her. And then she cried for a long time. And then healing started to take place. And then one of the reasons why I go around with Adriaan Vlok, the country, is because God gave me. He decided that you will be born in 1967 in South Africa because I have a plan about that country. And I'm going to give you a black skin. I'm going to make you a black man. And black men in this country, they have this stigma that they rape and all of that. But God, who says, you and I, we're going to partner so that you'll be a different kind of a black man. With hands that are clean. With a holy mind. Without any agenda. And I'm asking this morning as I'm concluding, pastors or preachers, they are notorious of singing conclusion. And after 30 minutes, they say, finally. And after 40 minutes, they say, now I'm about to close. It's like, when is he going to do this? So I'm not going to do that. I'm one of those. I hope, Bruce, you're not doing that. I noted some laughter somewhere. As I bring this to an end, God gave you, if you have to summarize what I've just been trying to repeat, I deliberately chose these stories because I believe in reconciliation. The word reconciliation, one American author who came, or preacher, he came to South Africa making a research around the TRC. He said there were two dirty words in this country, especially in a black community. It was nonviolence and reconciliation. And people didn't want to hear anything about reconciliation. It's like the word love. The word love has been abused, but people still have faith in love. We keep redeeming this word again and again and again. And I believe in this country, the face of being born again, the face or the image of the church in South Africa, of those who claim to be born, our country needs to see people with authentic reconciliation, not fanagalo. When they see Vlok and I, and then they see my skin is black, because if you pull out this skin, you'll see, I don't think there's a black blood or the white blood. We are all made in the image of God. And we can use these colors. Oh boy, I have a lot of stories to tell you. In conclusion, in Port Elizabeth, there was this woman, she was hosting me, I've forgotten her name. She was in her 80s. It just happened to be her birthday. And I said to her, she was white, and I said, I'm going to take you for a movie. She said, are you serious, Trevor? I said, yes. And then we got into a car, and we went to watch a movie. I could see everybody was like, what's happening? And then when we finished watching the movie, she said, Trevor, I need to go to the bank. And I got nervous. to the ATM machine. Imagine if we can do this in this country. We will confuse the principalities and powers that are inhabiting this country. And what is happening? These powers, they're just changing. Now they were incarnating white people, now they're incarnating black people. Then there's a hatred among black people that used to, and then there was a time where we black people used to be scared of white people. You remember that during apartheid? Now I know you're scared of us. Like when a black person said, you know. And we, the Church of Jesus Christ, in South Africa, unless we leave out this thing called the reconciliation. I'm not talking about cheap reconciliation. It must address the land. It must address all these other issues. I've been taken to school. I've been paid. My studies have been paid by white people, Afrikaners, to go and do all from my post-matric until now I'm doing my PhD. And it's money from white people. It is supposed to be like that because they are Christians. It's supposed to be like that. And then if I grow up and I grow in the Lord and I happen to get money and all that, God would expect me to take other nations to school and pay for their studies. And it shouldn't be like be praised to say, oh, you're doing a good job. It's part and parcel of the gospel. And it needs to be demonstrated. And I'm not ashamed to say they took me to pay, they pay for my studies. They were convicted by God and they did that. And I tell other black people, you need to take these other people from different countries, pay for their studies because it's God's money, we belong to the Lord. And may God help you and Bruce, Judy, and the leadership in this church, may God make this church be full of terrorists. Be full of terrorists with a belt that is full of love. So wherever you are, you'll be exploded with this bomb of love. That wherever you are, people will feel the presence of God. People will see this is how God is doing in our life. May God bless you. Thank you, Bruce.